It's worth remembering that like Porsche's other SUV, the Cayenne, the Macan isn't a bespoke, designed from the ground-up model like its sports cars. Instead, the Macan actually sits on a platform borrowed from the previous generation Audi Q5. Yet despite this less-than-ideal start point, Porsche did a comprehensive job of re-engineering the elements it had to work with, giving the Macan a distinctive feel peppered with plenty of Porsche-like traits in its steering, handling and chassis balance. Before we get into the news, make sure to like and subscribe to enter an Amazon gift card giveaway. Now let's get into the news. All of its basic dimensions and suspension components are bespoke to the Porsche, with a wider track, longer wheelbase and lower roof height, all giving the Macan an almost coupe-like stance on the road. As well as looking different, it also helps the Macan feel exceptionally stable at speed, underpinned by impressive body control and very high grip levels on account of its generally wide tires. Conventional steel coil springs and passive dampers are standard on the base Macan, with T and S models upgrading to three-way PASM adjustable dampers. Like many Porsches, the Macan's ride quality is always firm, but rarely deteriorates into being brittle or uncomfortable. Its main priority is to keep the body under complete control, something it does with great success despite weighing between 1,845 kilograms and 1,930 kilograms, depending on the engine. Models fitted on PASM dampers widen the suspension's bandwidth without going too far in either direction. Top-spec GTS models swap this arrangement out for an air spring setup, again fitted with corresponding adjustable dampers. The GTS has the most dynamically focused setup, sitting 15mm lower than cars on steel springs, dropping another 10mm when you press the sport button. It'll also rise by 40mm when you select the off-road mode. Unfortunately, despite the extra variability, the air springs themselves take away a certain level of connection from the road, and in combination with the GTS's standard 21-inch wheels can be a little too stiff in sports mode. Of course, the different suspension systems are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the Macan's chassis, with high-spec inclusions like a torque vectoring rear differential, power steering plus and even carbon ceramic brakes on the options list. Yet it's the fundamentals that the Macan gets right. The heavily weighted and accurate steering needs the smallest of inputs before the car instantly turns in with the sort of precision and poise you just don't expect in a jacked-up car this size. There are huge reserves of grip, and combined with standard four-wheel drive, the Macan unlocks a level of confidence that few rivals can match, but the chassis needs a certain level of performance to unlock its potential, performance that the four-cylinder Macans just don't have. It's also worth a mention that the Macan isn't as refined as many premium rivals, especially on larger wheels. The Macan's engine range is a story of two halves, split between inline four cylinders and a V6. Putting it simply, the four-cylinder engine found in the latest Macan and Macan T just isn't powerful enough to overcome the car's weight. The engine itself is an impressive unit in other applications, namely the Golf GTI and Audi S3, but when trying to fight around 400 kilograms of extra mass, 261 brake horsepower just isn't enough. Some clever launch control antics, all-wheel drive and a sharp-shifting 7-speed dual-clutch PDK transmission do make for an impressive sounding 0 to 62 miles per hour acceleration time of 6.2 seconds, but on the road it does not translate, often hunting through gears trying to find power that's just not really there. The Macan S and GTS are a different case. Rather than a VW-sourced four-cylinder, the V6 is a through-and-through Porsche unit, co-developed with Audi for use in some of its RS models. In the Macan S, the twin-turbocharged 2.9-liter V6 petrol engine produces a much more substantial 375 brake horsepower, and thanks to a clever hot V turbocharger layout, is both more responsive and surprisingly efficient, making it only 2 miles per gallon thirstier than the four-cylinder Macan T. This is reflected in its 0 to 62 miles per hour time of 4.8 seconds, with the Sport Chrono package, but felt even more acutely on the road as the same PDK transmission doesn't have to work nearly as hard to deliver considerably more performance. Sitting at the top of the range is the Macan GTS, packing an even more potent 434 brake horsepower tune, essentially replacing the now-defunct turbo model. It manages the 0 to 62 miles per hour sprint in 4.3 seconds, a hugely impressive time, but if you're under the impression that it will keep up with rivals like the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio or BMW X3M, you might be disappointed, as both of those admittedly more expensive rivals deliver considerably more performance from their own turbocharged, 6-cylinder engines. We wouldn't bother looking for any hybrid or diesel options, though, as the Macan is strictly petrol-powered only. We've seen the Macan EV testing multiple times before, but now we have an official teaser image showing the car's design. The sketch was revealed alongside a concept electric boat which uses the same drivetrain as the Macan EV. The image highlights plenty of design details we expected to see on the new Macan EV. To the rear there's a full-width LED light bar, and the rounded headlight cluster is similar to the current Macans. The profile is more rakish than the ICE Macan, however, giving a more sporting stance. Along with the latest teaser, Vice President Product Line Macan spoke on the Macan EV. With the all-electric Macan, we want to provide the sportiest model in its segment. To achieve this, the Macan EV will be one of the first cars to sit on the VW Group's new PPE architecture. Senior engineers from the Macan EV project have told Auto Express that the adoption of an all-new platform, the Volkswagen Group's latest PPE setup, will allow the Macan to feature not only trick 800 volts electrics but also significant chassis tweaks that will make the Macan feel unmistakably like a Porsche. From our latest spy pictures we can see round headlight clusters in typical Porsche fashion with lower fog lights integrated into the side air intakes on the bumper. At the side there's uncomplicated, smooth surfacing with plastic wheel arches and a charging flap located above the rear wheel. The roofline slopes down to the boot opening in the typical Macan coupe SUV style, and to the rear we can see an active aerodynamic spoiler. There's still camouflage on the rear light, but expect a light bar just like the Taycans here. We'll ignore the obviously fake exhaust tips on the bumper. Underneath the body we'll see the most advanced iterations yet of Porsche's active suspension management, with 2-valve dampers used for the first time on any of the firm's cars, electric or combustion engine. This allows us a greater spread of settings, Dominic Hartmann, the car's chief chassis engineer, told us. You'll feel a bigger difference between all of the PASM modes. That is it for today. Make sure to like and subscribe.